All right. Thank you so much, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to class. And I don't know if I mentioned Kevin Mitnick or Kelvin Mitnick. What did I say? Did I give you Kelvin or Kevin? Did I tell you it is Kelvin Mitnick or Kevin? Anyway, um, welcome everybody, and welcome back to class. Um Welcome to, yeah, thank you, Manuel. It is Kevin Mitnick. Welcome to another exciting episode of our cyber security fundamentals training. And as tech people, it is extremely important that we receive training in basic cybersecurity, and there are security skills that are required for every tech professional. You cannot be a tech professional who doesn't understand security, at least the basics of security. And so, in the root phase of our training, we are going to receive the um, basic tech training, sorry, cybersecurity training that we require. So, for example, let's say you are a software engineer or web developer, and you build web applications. And if you don't understand anything about security, you will not know how to make your application secure, which means the applications that you build for companies are going to be vulnerable. Okay, so if you are a full stack developer or a software engineer and you are building applications, you need to have security at the back of your mind, and you need to have some basic security skills and understand the tactics of cyber attackers, because we build applications specifically to um, overcome cyber attacks. Okay, so when we are building our applications, we build them to defend systems. And so they are security trainings that everybody requires. And I'm so happy that tonight we get to continue. And we will not be able to cover all the material tonight. And so we will just take the second part of it. And next week, we will go through the rest, complete them, and also begin our webmaster class next week. So welcome back to class. I'm so excited. Anytime I come to class, I feel so happy. Now, before we get into the lesson, I want to give you a short motivational message. And it says that it does not matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop. It does not matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop. It does not matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop. So this is very, very important. This is a message to you, telling you about the secret of success, and it is letting you know that you need to keep moving. You need to keep moving. Sometimes you may be moving slowly. Sometimes you may be someone who moves slowly. But the fact is, if you keep moving, you are going to get there. If you keep moving, you are going to get there. Little drops of water will make a mighty ocean. The key is to keep moving. The key is to be consistent. The key is to keep adding to it every day. And if you keep adding to it every day, one day it is going to build momentum. One day it is going to be successful. One day it is going to be great. Okay. So every day you add to it. Every day you add to it. Every day you add to it. And I remember one story when all the animals were commanded to enter into Noah's Ark. And you realize that the animals that were so fast, they just got there in seconds. But those that were very, very slow and coming from afar, you see, they had a target in mind and they kept moving. All right. So the tortoise, the snails, they all kept moving slowly, slowly, slowly. But the fact is, they too, they got there. Okay, so sometimes it's not about how fast you are moving, but it's about you moving. We call it consistency. It's about you being consistent. Yeah, sometimes um, you don't feel like working, you don't feel like moving, you don't feel like doing what you're supposed to do. But if you can just keep doing it, sometimes you are working on a project, sometimes you have a dream and it feels like you are moving so slow. The thing is, keep moving, okay? If you keep moving, you are going to get there. If you keep moving, you are going to get there. So I want to encourage you to keep moving. You see, some people are fast learners, they learn so fast, and other people are slow learners. Okay, they learn slowly. They learn slowly, and it takes time for them to understand things. And the message here is telling you that it doesn't matter whether you're a slow learner or you're a fast learner. Okay. If you keep doing it, if you are consistent, a time is coming, you are going to build that momentum. You are going to be that professional that you need. Okay. So long as you are still learning, you are going to get there. The professional you want to become, you are going to get there. So thank you very much. And I just want to let you know not to stop, keep moving, and you are going to get there. All right. So my name is Darlington. I'm an educator. I love to teach. And tonight I'll be taking you through the basics of cybersecurity. And I'm going to be playing a few clips along the way. And I'm sure this particular clip, you saw it yesterday, but then I'll play it anyway. And let me see if you can hear it well.
What is cybersecurity?
Let me actually play it in VLC so that you can follow through or hear it very, very well. So let me just do that for you and we'll get right into our lesson. Okay.
What is cybersecurity and how does it protect you?
All right. So did you hear the sound? Was it clear? Were you hearing the sound? If not, let me do it again. And I want to um, I want to know if you can hear.
What
So,
is cybersecurity and how does it protect you? Cybersecurity is the front line of defense against attacks on computers, servers, mobile devices, electronic systems, and networks. Attacks come through the internet. Cybercrimes are perpetrated by criminals who target individuals or networks for financial gain or to cause service disruption. Cyberterrorism is another type of attack. It's where technology is used to inflict real-world damage or cause critical disruption to infrastructure. If you go online using any electronic device, you are susceptible to cyber attacks and need some form of cybersecurity. How do cybercriminals and hackers launch cyber attacks? A common threat is malware or malicious software. Malware comes in various forms. A virus infects files with malicious code. A Trojan causes damage or collects data. Spyware records a user's activities, which means it can capture credit card details. Ransomware locks files and data. Cybercriminals threaten to erase them unless a ransom is paid. Adware spreads malicious code through tempting advertisements. Botnets are networks of computers infected with malware. They enable cybercriminals to perform tasks online without the user's permission. Other cyber attacks come in the form of phishing. This is an email or message that requests personal information, such as passwords or credit card numbers. SQL injection inserts malicious code into a database. SQL injection inserts malicious code into a database. This gives hackers access to sensitive information. Man-in-the-middle attack is where a cybercriminal intercepts communication between two users in order to steal data. Denial of service attack is where a network or server is overwhelmed with traffic, preventing the system from performing its regular functions. While those affected the most from cyber attacks are retailers and medical providers, public services, individuals are still at risk. And it only takes one person to accidentally download malware onto their company's network by not adhering to simple security practices. How can you protect yourself and your employer from cyber threats? updating the operating systems and software on your devices. This gives you security patches to fight off the latest cyber threats and bugs.
All right. So in this particular training, we are going to cover the essential skills, basic skills that you require as a tech professional. And we want to get an insight into some of the cyber attacks in the real world. And for you to begin to fight cyber attacks, you need to understand the forms of attacks out there. So we're actually going to spend more time delving into the world of malware, which is the number one form of cyber attacks. But then we will get some basic insight into all the rest and learn some simple mitigation techniques to prevent cyber attacks. So if you're ready, let's get right into the lesson. I don't know if I've heard from anybody today. Welcome, Gloria. And welcome, Solomon. If you can hear me and you are ready, let me see you in the chat and we'll get right into the lesson. So tonight, I'm going to give you an overview of these cyber attacks. And in our next meeting, we will zoom in into malware and learn a whole lot. So welcome, Baba. Welcome, Emmanuel. Welcome, Gloria. Ready, ready, ready. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. So let's begin. Thank you, Oluwokola. Let's begin. All right. So we want to talk a little bit about malware. So tonight, like I mentioned, we are just doing some overview and getting insights into these cyber attacks. Now, when we say malware, malware is short for malicious software. So the word malware was created out of two words, malicious software. Please type malicious software in the chat for me. Malicious software. Malicious software. Please put that in the chat for me. Malicious software. Malicious software. So that is what malware means. All right. So those who coined the term malware, they picked it out of malicious software. And the word malicious stands for harmful or dangerous or bad. So malicious software refers to any software that is harmful to computers. And one thing we have to understand is that cyber attackers are very much interested in getting into your system through software. So when we mention malware, we are actually talking about attacks through software. Okay, malware is generally referring to all forms of cyber attacks through software. And there are different types of malware. All right. So when we say attacks through software, we are talking about creating malicious software. And this particular software that is created by these malware creators, they are intentionally designed. Okay. They are not programs that just come up and do bad things. Okay, they are created intentionally. And some of these cyber attackers are very skilled, they are very intelligent, and they know how to write software to do bad things. All right. So they are intentionally designed to cause damage, to steal information, or gain unauthorized access to computer systems, to network, and to data. All right. Now, malware can take various forms and can be used in a wide range of cyber attacks. Common examples of malware include viruses, we have worms, we have Trojans, we have ransomware, we have spyware, adware, rootkit, and botnet. And so we will spend some time and get into these malware in our next class because there are some serious information that we as tech professionals, we should be aware of when it comes to malicious software. And so we'll spend time and delve into them so that we understand how they are and how to prevent systems from these forms of attacks. All right. Now, some people feel like they've only heard of viruses, so they think viruses are the only types of attacks out there, but we have other forms of software attack or malware types, and we've mentioned worms, trojans, and the rest. We will spend some time and talk about the others. So we'll start with phishing. Phishing. Please type phishing for me in the chat. Phishing. Phishing. It sounds like phishing, and it was actually coined because of phishing, but this one is spelled PH. Phishing. Phishing. So phishing is another form of attack, and this is another common and a dangerous form of attack. And when it comes to phishing, it is a type of cyber attack technique where attackers masquerade as trustworthy entity to deceive individuals. All right. They masquerade as trustworthy entities to deceive individuals. What does that mean? What it means is this. So when it comes to phishing, the cyber attackers, they appear to be companies that you already know. Okay. Meanwhile, they are a group of individuals or a person sitting somewhere, but he comes and he appears like your bank or your school or a company you already know, and he tries to deceive you to give information to them, thinking you are providing the information to the organization. So let's say your bank, like in Ghana, we have GCB Bank. An attacker can appear and say that he's GCB Bank. And so you are a customer of GCB Bank, and so they can send you a message and try to retrieve information from you. And their goal or their aim is to receive information from you. And the tactic they use is to do things in a way that you will never be aware that you are giving the information to the wrong entity. Okay, so they masquerade as trustworthy entity to deceive individuals into divulging sensitive information such as login credentials, such as credit card numbers or personal identification information. All right, so most of the time they use emails most of the time to send you a message that appears to be legitimate, but then there is a link within the mail that when you click on, it will take you to a fake website that looks like the real. So I've gathered a sample of emails, and these emails, I just want us to use them as a case study and look at how a phishing attack may look like. So most of the time, the phishing attack will come through email and it will appear to be real. But then when it comes to, but then you are not actually dealing with a real company. Okay, let me put it that short. All right, so this is the mail that we have created as a sample for you to see how a cyber phishing attack will look like. Okay, so let's go through this email. So the subject is saying immediate action required. Verify your GCB bank account. All right. So in Ghana, we have a bank called GCB Bank. So over here, if you check here, they will tell you that from, so the address that the email came from, you see from GCB Bank, support@gcbbank.com.gh. And GCB Bank, this is their correct domain name. Okay. This is their correct website address. And so how were they able to send a mail from a correct address? All right, so if you send an email from an email account, it will come with that address. However, it is very, very easy to write code for the code to generate an email or initiate an email or send an email. And when you are sending an email through a script, you can indicate within the script what the from address should look like. So this is very easy to do, and any developer can do this. They can let you receive an email and it will look like it is from this bank. All right. So everything here looks real, but then at the end of the day, the link you are clicking on is taking you to a fake website. Okay. So over here, you can see two. And here we have an innocent customer at gmail.com who is receiving this email. And this particular mail, it will actually be sent to about 1,000 people. And those who will fall victim to it, they will respond. So look at what this message is saying. And most of the time, they want to create some form of urgency for you to feel like something is about to happen to you. And because of that, you will panic and not you will not pay attention to sensitive things, and through that they will be able to get you. So this one says that, dear customer, as part of our commitment to ensuring the security of your banking experience, we are performing routine checks on our customer accounts. Due to recent security upgrades, it is mandatory that you verify your account information to avoid suspension of your banking services. Okay. So when you hear suspension of your banking services, it is going to make you feel like, what is going on? Then they'll tell you that failure to complete this verification within 24 hours may result in restricted access to your account. Okay, so when you hear this, you go like, why? What is going to happen? What is this? Then they'll go like, please click on the link below to verify your account immediately. Then they'll provide a link like this. Okay, so look at this link carefully, and I'll show you the real link where this is supposed to be done. And so when you click on this link, then it will take you to where they want to take you to. Okay, so look at this particular email. It says that if you have any questions, contact our support team. They provided a number. Thank you for your prompt action. Best regard, GCB Bank security team. GCB Bank. Okay, so any hacking group or any cyber attacker can design this email, let it look so convincing. All right, and where the attack really happens is through this particular link. Once you click on this link, it takes you to where they want to take you. And when we talk about phishing, the idea is, number one, to give you a convincing message like this. And number two, to take you to a website that looks the same as the original website. Okay. So in Ghana, GCB Bank, let me show you GCB Bank here. Now, I believe you can see this. GCB Bank, look at their address. This is the same address, okay? So by seeing that mail, even if you check the from, you are not going to know that it is a phishing attack, okay? So look at the number of people who will fall for this. And this particular attack, it takes someone with basic skills and someone who is careful and professional to set up these things. So they will come here and design this same website. And if you are a good front-end developer or full-stack developer, this is not any big thing to do. Every developer can do this, okay? Every developer can do that. I was telling the morning class that I don't know about you, but I can create this website in my sleep, okay? In my sleep, I can build this, all right? Every good developer can do this, okay? Now watch this. Their main target is actually to create the log. I just clicked on login. I believe you saw that, okay? Please, can you see this banking page? I just want to be sure you are here. All right. So out of all the works they are doing, thank you, Manuel. This is where their interest really lies, okay? And again, what I'm saying is this. Designing this page to be 100% the same as this, it is not hard. It just takes a good front-end developer to do this. So they will create this same thing. And look at this. If you look at the link of the original e-banking login page, look at this. It looks very similar to the fake one. So I want you to study this one carefully. Study this one carefully. And I'll show you the fake one as well. And tell me the difference you see, because they can't take you to the real one. If they take you to the real one, then they've not done their job. Their job is to give you a fake link. And their goal is to make sure that you don't know that something is going on. So even if you are aware of this link, because they have done their research, they know you are a customer, so probably you are aware of this particular link. But because of the urgency they have put in you, it is going to be almost impossible for you to detect that something is wrong with this link. Please, have you seen the difference here? I'll call one person to speak and tell us the difference you have spotted in the link. Look at the link carefully. Look at the link carefully. And when we come here, look at the correct link. This is a correct link, okay? This is a correct link. Now, this is where their main interest is. And all they want to do is for you to fill this form. All right, so anytime there is a form on any website, the moment you type in your username, password, and you click on this button, the data has been sent to the controller of the site. It has been sent already. So all they want is for you to type here, and hit send. The moment you do that, they have done their job. And so from that moment, this is what they will do. They have to find a way of letting you know that everything is now okay, and for you to move away without knowing that something went wrong. So they can send you a fake message to let you know that, okay, everything has been fixed, it's okay. Or they can redirect you to the correct website and you will log in and you will not know, because the moment I click here, through the code in the backend, the code can redirect this page to anywhere. You can do that. I mean, a developer can do all these things. All right. So this is how phishing attack works. So look at how dangerous this could be. And what they do is that they will gather a number of customers, about 1,000 customers or more. And they also target people who have money, because the moment you type this and they get it, they go straight into your account and they perform any transaction they want. And the thing is this, all you need to access this bank is to provide a username and password. The moment you hit login and the credentials are correct, you will see account balance, you will have access to perform transactions, and they can move your funds to wherever they want and do whatever they want with your account. Again, they target people who have access to resources, either the keys to a company's account or people who have a lot of money in their account. If there's no money in your account, they are not going to target you because they do their research first. So they know you. Okay, they know. All right. So as tech professionals, we are getting some revelations about various forms of cyber attacks. Look at this attack. If 1,000 people receive this particular mail, how many people will fall victim to this? And look at how the cyber attacks as attackers will be deceiving people, and they also target people who have basic or no tech backgrounds. Okay, so they do these things in a way that you are just completely lost. If you watch some of the documentaries on YouTube, you realize that most of these cyber attacks, they target them. They target them to sometimes older people who have retired and have a lot of money in their accounts, older people who are not born in the computer age, people who are clueless about computing things. And so you see a lot of innocent people who are just falling victims to the various cyber attacks. So I'm going to call one or two people. And what I want is this. I want you to tell me the difference you see in the link and what do you think about this type of attack. Look at the message, look at the website, the link, and everything, and just give us your opinion. What do you think? Do you have any experiences to share? Anything you've heard before? Anything you've come across in the past? Yes, anything. So I just want to hear from somebody. And first off, I'm looking for the difference within the link because they can't give you a correct link. If they give you a correct link, then they've not done their job. All right. So I want to find out who spotted the difference in the link. Who spotted any difference in the link, and what did you see? So let me allow some people to speak so you can share your own opinion or anything. So Emmanuel, if you can unmute, please do that and tell us what you see.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yeah, okay. So looking at the two links, what I spotted was that in the original link, the name of the bank was GCB Bank. So you see, it was ebank www.ebank.gcbbank gcbbank actually limited.com. But if you look at the email that we have here, you can say www.ebank.gcbanklimited.com. So that is the only difference I spotted in the two links.
Okay. All right. So that is it. That is it. That is it. So what do you think about this attack, this phishing attack, and how this particular attack has been designed?
So if you want me to give a comment about it, or if I want to
Yes, yeah. What do you think about this? Any comments?
I think this is, as you previously said, it's an intelligently created way of accessing people's data, and without, as you said, prior knowledge or maybe fundamental understanding of how these cyber attacks works, it will be very difficult for you to pinpoint, because you wouldn't, most of the time, you wouldn't even pay attention to the nitty-gritty details of these things. And I think there is a need for us to be all educated on these measures and know how to go about them.
All right, thank you so much. And so this is called phishing. This is called phishing, and look at how it is. They can fish for a lot of people who fall victim to this. Yes, and what they do is that sometimes those who are very, very smart, they will alter the domain name in a way that unless you are extremely careful, you will not see. So they'll look for something to change. Okay, they'll look for something to change that you will not, it will be hard for you to spot. Okay, right now we are analyzing it, so it is very easy. But if you were someone who was expecting some money in your account, or you have money in your account, and they tell you that your bank is going to be shut down in 24 hours, it will let you feel some way, and you will not even see what is going on. All right. So I'm going to show you a second email. This particular mail was created for the sake of demonstration, But the second email here was a real email that was recorded in 2018. And this one was an attack that was directed to the customers of Citizens Bank. And this is a real bank. And look at the mail. It's coming from security alert at citizensbank.com. They say important notice about your bank account. Dear customer, your account has been regarded as inactive and locked in compliance with Citizens Bank's terms of use. You have 24 hours to unlock your account. Just follow the link below and look at this. They provided the correct Citizens Bank website address. They provided the correct. You see, one thing about links is that you can have a text that is written, but behind the text, you can put a hyperlink behind the text. So what is going to happen here is that you are going to be directed to the link behind the text. But they have written this here looking like the website address, and you know this to be correct. But it is after you click here before you will know where it is taking you. All right. So please go to this link. Otherwise, your account will be completely removed on the expiry of the mentioned period. Thank you, Citizens Bank customer support. So it looks like a real email, but look at this. When you put your mouse over the link, look at where it is taking you. It's taking you to a completely strange website. Very, very strange. And how many people will detect this? So once you click on this, what you don't see is that you go to a page, and the moment you click, your chances of knowing that something is wrong is now very, very less. It's now very, very less, because the page that you are going to see has been carefully designed to look like the real one. To look like the real one. So it is very, very hard for you to see that something is wrong with this particular link. And it is only sometimes some of the attackers, they are not too cautious, so they leave some key things out, and sometimes their messages don't sound correct. So even from reading the message, you may detect that these people have made mistakes that a real bank will never make, okay? But then some of them are also very careful people and very skilled people, very professional people. And so they send messages, they organize everything so professionally. This is another example of a phishing attack. And this was a sample email sent to Gmail. And it says that your password will expire in 1 day. And the sample university here is my university. And it says that, dear network user, sorry, this email is meant to inform you that your My University network password will expire in 24 hours. Please follow the link below to update your password. Then they give you a link. Again, the real link is behind the text. So once you click on it, it takes you to where they want to take you. But looking at these messages, you realize that it is hard to spot that this is not real. Okay, so especially when it comes to banks, it is very, very wrong to click on a link to access your bank. If you want to access your bank, it is best to type in the address yourself. Or even if you use Google, like GCB Bank, if you search on Google, Google will never rank a fake site. So if you search on Google, it is the correct site that will come up as first. But clicking on a link from your email to your bank is wrong. Sometimes the bank will tell you that we will never ask you to do that. So please don't do that. So this is phishing. You see how phishing looks like. This is a typical demonstration of phishing attack. They send a message and they also create a page and they give you a link. When you click on the link, you go to their page and you enter information. The moment you enter, they have what they need. And there are types of phishing attacks. The first type is called email phishing. That is what we have seen here. The most common form of phishing, where attackers send fraudulent emails that appear to come from legitimate sources, such as banks, social media platforms, or trusted organizations. This is known as email phishing. So they can pose as your bank that you already know, that you already trust. They will pose as a social media platform. You know, sometimes they just want to get access to your Facebook account or your LinkedIn account. And you may think that what is Facebook? At the moment they get into your Facebook, that is when you know what they are trying to do. Sometimes they want your WhatsApp account. And you will get to know later what they did. One time, one reputable public speaker who is well respected and has a lot of good friends and rich friends. One time, an email was sent from his account to one of his trusted friends. And this is a rich speaker, well known all over the country, well respected, and people will do anything for him. So one of his friends received a message, and the message said like, okay, hello, and mentioned the name of the person, and it came from the speaker's email. And he said that I am stranded in China. I want to come home tomorrow, and I need $2,000. So please kindly help me out. When I return, I will sort you out. The moment the person saw the message, the person jumped and quickly went to look for $2,000 and sent to the account that the speaker was requesting for, okay? And the money was gone. When tomorrow came, he called to find out whether he arrived safely. And he said like, what are you talking about? I'm here, I've not traveled anywhere. I've not gone anywhere. And the person realized that he has been duped. Not knowing over 300 people had received the same messages, and most of them sent the money because of the reputation of this person. So you ask yourself, why will an attacker want to have access to somebody's email? You see the damage they have caused. So they do their research, they target the person they want to exploit. And after targeting this person, they go ahead and they cause damage to these people who have access to a whole lot. So through your social media account, when the message is sent, it will appear as you are sending it. All right, so this is called email phishing. And an example is an email claiming to be from your bank, urging you to click on a link to verify details. Now, phishing can occur in various forms, including email, websites, and even text messages. In the morning class, someone said, remember, I received a text message telling me to do so and so. So it can also come through text messages. And I mentioned that phishing attack through text message is called smishing. You can see it here. So there are different types of phishing attack. We have the email phishing and others. So common examples include, and sometimes even phone calls, okay? Email phishing, spear phishing, whaling, smishing, vishing, clone phishing, and farming. Farming is even the most dangerous one. Hey, someone says happened to me last week. Wow. You see? So sometimes they can impersonate, get access to somebody's WhatsApp, and they can use that to perform an attack. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, Osimisi. I'm sorry. All right. So what we have seen is called email phishing. There's another one called spear phishing. Please type that in the chat for me. Spear phishing. Spear phishing. Spear phishing. Spear phishing. So we are just getting an education in cyber attacks, and we are talking about phishing. And we've seen email phishing, we've seen spear phishing. And as a cyber professional, you will learn all these things. Oh, I'm so sorry. You learn all these things. Let me see the message here. The message says that, may you please lend me some money? I'll pay you back on Monday. Wow. I'm so sorry. And he said, who is this? He said, Mr. Andre. Oh, from Sifunile. I see we are on the same group, winter school. Baba. Oh, okay. Oh, Matibella. Then he said, from how much? Oh, 1,003 rand. Oh my goodness. Okay. But I still don't know who I'm talking to. I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm so sorry. So did you send it? Did you send it to him? Did you send it to him? Wow. So these things, they happen. They happen. And people tell you stories and you go like, wow, things are going on. Things are going on. So people have a lot of tactics they use to attack people. I'm so sorry to hear this. All right. Now, when we say spear phishing, it is a targeted form of phishing where attackers personalize the attack based on information they've gathered about the victim, such as the job they are doing, their interests, their recent activities. So they gather the information and they send a targeted attack. So it is not general, like a general attack that goes to a lot of people. This one, they target a person. So for example, an email appearing to be from your boss asking you to review a confidential document. Wow. Seriously. Wow. Wow. Sorry about that. All right. So that is spear phishing. Then there's another one called whaling, and whaling is a type of spear phishing that actually targets high-profile individuals such as executives, senior management, often to steal sensitive corporate data. So whaling is a type of spear phishing, targeted phishing. Wow, seriously. Wow. And with whaling, they target the big fishes. You see, this one, you see that they use fishing to create it. So this one, they look for the whales. They don't look for small fish. They look for the whales. So this is called whaling. The whaling targets people with access, the CFOs, the chief finance officers, and the CEOs, and those who have access to resources, they target them. So an example is an email to a company CEO appearing to be from a legal firm requesting immediate action on a lawsuit. Look at how convincing the email looked. They can create any email and send to someone they have targeted. And what is going to happen is that the person may follow through. And the moment they make a mistake, they've given out important information. Then we have SMS phishing. It's called smishing. It's any phishing through SMS. We have vision or voice phishing, phishing through phone calls. A phone call can come claiming to be from a tech support. So this is like social engineering. You can receive a phone call that is telling you that you are calling from tech support. You know, if you work in a big company, the IT department is there. They fix things. They run occasional monitoring on the computers. And so you can receive a message from them telling you that they are doing this upgrade. And so do so, do so, do so. Meanwhile, they are not legitimate people. Yes. Sometimes some people can call you and tell you that, okay, we've sent you mobile money and we made a mistake. Please, we want you to send it back. And before you know it, you have sent it back to them. And some people too, they will call, let's say in Ghana, MTN, once in a while, some people will receive calls and they'll hear that, are you sending the money? Please, can you send the money right now? And you go like, which money? If you keep talking to them, they will keep trying to convince you. And for some people, it doesn't work on them, but it works on other people. And these attackers, they know what works, and they know that some people will fall victim to it. And a few weeks ago, we heard a story that somebody actually fell victim to this particular deception. The person said, are you sending the money? And coincidentally, he was owing someone that the person had called him previously. The person had called him previously about his money, and he thought it was a person following up. So he said, oh, I'm going to send it right away. And the person gave the account number, and he went and he actually sent the money. Later, the person he was owing called that, why haven't you sent the money? And he said that he has sent it. And before he realized, he had been duped, and the money was gone. The money was gone. The money was gone, and the attacker blocked his line. You can't call back. We also have clone phishing, which is a type of phishing that the attackers create a nearly identical copy of a legitimate email that a victim had previously received, but replace the links or attachments with malware or malicious ones. So maybe you are following up on a certain mail, you are having a discussion on your mail, and the attackers have seen that you are responding to a thread of email. They can send you a follow-up of that email, and you may think it's the same person you are communicating with, and you may provide information through that. We call that clone phishing. Then pharming, which is the most dangerous form of phishing. It is a more technical form of phishing. Wow. Where attackers redirect a legitimate website address to a fake website without the user's knowledge. So with pharming, an example is this: typing a legitimate website address, but being redirected to a fake site that looks identical to the real one. So this particular attack, they actually attack the website, and they get to change the DNS record of the website. And so when customers are trying to visit that website, they actually type the real website, but then they are redirected to a fake one. Okay, so after they type the real, then they are redirected to the fake one, and they don't see that they have been redirected. So this is an attack that will get a lot of people because the main website has been tampered with. They have successfully attacked the website. So they will redirect all those who visit the site. So this is a large form of phishing attack, and it is called pharming. So we've seen the various types of phishing, and this is very important. And we'll be moving on to the next one. And before we do that, I'm going to play a short clip. And after the clip, I will move on to password attacks. Password attack. Please type password attacks in the chat for me. Type password attacks in the chat for me. Password attacks. Password attacks. Password attacks. So we are going to look at password attacks, and we are going to learn a lot about password attacks. So right from this particular lesson, you have learned that phishing is not something to overlook. Maybe you thought it's nothing, but look at how real it looks or realistic it looks. And this can really affect somebody. And we have to be on the lookout for all of these forms of attacks.
You don't know these people, but they've spent the last 10 months getting to know everything about you, your colleagues, and your company. They've been quietly scanning and mapping your networks, collecting credentials, and identifying the critical data they want to exploit, all without being noticed. Until today.
Three.
Dalawa.
Natin. Boom.
Hey, you about ready to get out of here?
No, another exciting night of event triage and analysis.
Sounds thrilling.
Mhm.
Try not to have too much fun.
Yeah.
Hey, have a good weekend.
You too. Hey, Meg. Before you go, did you see this email from the cyber threat intel provider?
Wait, what?
Wait, let me check some SIM logs.
Is this accurate?
Who disabled the log feed from the server? All the IDSs are down too.
Yeah, you need to get Reynolds on the phone. Now!
I promise, I'm leaving now. I'm sorry, I got tied up. I know the reservations are at 8. Don't worry, I'll be there. Honey, I'm gonna have to call you back. What's wrong?
Bruce, this looks like a major compromise. The cyber threat intel provider found a sample of our data for sale on the dark web. As I was going to confirm the sample, I found that the IDSs and the logs are down.
Yeah, it gets worse. Our public-facing websites are going offline. Employee data, client data, email servers, account numbers. It's all up for sale to the highest bidder if we don't pay now. What do you want us to do? Bruce, what do you want us to do?
Checkmate. Go to severity level 1. Recall the team. I want forensics all over this. I'll notify leadership and meet you in the SOC. A long night ahead of us.
All right, so we are studying about cyber threats and cyber attacks, and we've looked at malware, we've looked at phishing. We'll spend more time to get into the details of preventing malware attacks, but we are getting insight into the various common cyber threats. And now we want to talk about password attacks. When I zoom in here and I read the little text here, it says that password attacks involves a third party trying to gain access to your systems by solving a user's password. So when it comes to password attacks, they try to solve a password. How do you solve a password? This means they try to find your password. They try to guess the password. That's a better word. And you know, if you are not security educated, you can fall victims to password attacks. And there are millions of people who are clueless about cyber threats, who are clueless about security, who are careless about how they create passwords. And let me tell you, it is easy to guess the passwords of a lot of people. Let me tell you, there are a lot of people, they use their telephone numbers as their password. If you like, try it. You will get a lot of people who do that. There are a lot of people, they use their date of birth as their password. There are a lot of people, they use, like ladies, they use their mother's names as their passwords. There are a lot of people, they use their boyfriend's names as their password, their girlfriend's names as their passwords. They use things that people can guess. So these things, if you guess them, you can get a lot of people. One day I took somebody's iPad and I just entered the date of birth and it just opened like that. Some people use their date of birth as their password. Okay, so when we say someone is trying to solve your password, they try to guess your password because most people use weak passwords. And even if you use strong passwords, there are tools that are used in password attacks. So when it comes to password attacks, this particular type of attack is really common. It's really common. It's really, really common. And it's really common. And there are types of password attacks. So password attacks are methods used by cyber criminals to gain unauthorized access to systems or accounts by exploiting weaknesses in password security. So they do this by exploiting weaknesses in password security. This means that people use weak passwords. And so we need to create strong passwords because people use weak passwords. These attacks typically involve attempting to discover or crack passwords using various techniques. So there are various techniques that are used to crack passwords or discover passwords. Sometimes even passwords that are not easily guessed, there are still tools to try to discover those passwords. And so you need to know how to create passwords. Let's look at some of the examples. The most common forms or types of password attacks include brute force attack. Please type brute force attack for me. Brute force attack. Please put that in the chat for me. Brute force attack. I'm sure you've heard of brute force before. Okay, so brute force is a type of password attack. We also have credential stuffing, dictionary attack, and password guessing. All these are forms of password attacks. Let me tell you a little bit about them. Watch this. When it comes to brute force attack, a brute force attack is a method where attackers systematically try all possible combinations of characters until the correct one is found. So with this, they use a software that will try all possible combinations. Let me give you an example. Let's say your PIN code is a 4-digit PIN code. And so what they will do is that they will use a software that will test all the possible 4-pin codes in the world. I mean, when the codes are 4, when the pin code, they are 4 pins, and they have a software that can test 1,000 codes in a second. And they check all possible combinations of 40 gates. Do you think one of them will work? Do you think one of them will work? You are using a 4-pin code. You know your ATM pin, okay? And they are trying combinations of all possible 4-pin. They are using a software to do that. Do you think one of them will work? I'm asking you. Do you think one of them will work out? All right, of course. None of them will work. So with brute force attack, that's why it is a brute force. They try all possible combinations just to get one that will work. That is why sometimes they ask you to use longer passwords, because if your password is made up of just 4 characters, the combination will be few. All the possible 4 combinations, maybe it will run into thousands. Maybe, I've not done it. But then if the possible combinations are 8, okay, someone says 10,000. Wow. If there are 8, it is going to be more incremented. I mean, an exponential. If there are 8, it's going to be exponential, maybe millions, before they can get all possible 8 combination. And if it is 16, then it's going to be in trillions. So the length of the password alone has meaning. And apart from that, there is a way to create a password to prevent a lot of attacks. Now, this method does not rely on any specific knowledge about the password. So they don't have any knowledge. Instead, they use computational power to test every possible combination. Wow. This is similar to a dictionary attack. And we'll look at what a dictionary attack looks like. So right now we are in a cyber class. So we are getting insight into the types of cyber attacks, and we are still talking about password attacks. How does it work? The brute force. Attackers use specialized software tools to automate the process of generating and testing password combinations. Exhaustive search. The attack continues until the correct password is discovered, which can take a varying amount of time depending on the password's complexity and length. My goodness. When it comes to brute force, there are some attacks. They can leave it to run for hours, some for days, before they can get all the possible combinations for one to work. I remember in a movie, they were trying to break into the White House, and there was a door that they needed 4-pin to do. So they connected to the wires and they ran a brute force attack on it. So they ran all the possible combinations and it took them a long time. Eventually, one of them worked. So cyber criminals have several tactics. Some of them specialize in certain tactics and they know it well, and they have the tools to get it done. But as security professionals, we also have mitigation measures, things to prevent the attack in the first place. And one of the important things about cyber education or security education, which sometimes every employee of a company should receive, is that sometimes your habits and the things you do are the main cause of attacks. And you getting knowledge to stop doing certain things or doing things in a different way is the number one defense against cyber attacks. So it is important that this kind of education is given and best practices are given for employees of a company to follow. All right. So what are the mitigation measures? Number one, use long passwords and complex passwords that include a mix of letters, numbers, and special characters. As for this, it is compulsory for everyone, especially tech professionals. Let me share my screen well and show you something. This is compulsory for everyone, especially tech professionals. From today, if you are not doing it already, you have to start doing. For me, I've been doing it for years, so it is part of me. From today, every password you create should have 4 elements. Every password should have 4 elements. Number one, every password you have should have an uppercase if you are not already doing it. Number two, every password should have a lowercase. Every password should have a symbol. And every password should have a number. These are the elements of a strong password. So every password you have or you create from today moving forward should have these 4 elements in it. Please type this in the chat for me. Please type this in the chat for me. Now, creating passwords like this will greatly secure your system from a lot of attacks. Please type this in the chat for me. So every password you create should have, I didn't say you should screenshot it first. I say you should type it. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So these are the elements of a password, of a strong password. These are the elements of a strong password. Now, sometimes a strong password may require, okay, thank you. Sometimes a strong password may require, may look strange, and sometimes if you use a password generator, you may have a password that looks strange and has a lot of characters, and it is impossible to crack. Fine. But sometimes there are passwords that you have to memorize. Okay, sometimes there are passwords that you have to memorize. Okay, so it is not every time that you write passwords down, because sometimes the security of a system of something very, very important comes from the password only you know about. There are some pins or passwords, let me talk about passwords, that you just have to memorize them. It is not every password you should memorize, because you are not supposed to be using one password throughout. But there are some passwords that you have to memorize. And so even if, and I'm saying it again, even if you have to memorize a password, you can still create a password that you can keep in mind, but it still has these elements. For example, let me give you one example of a password you can remember, you can keep in mind, but it still has a 4 elements. So someone can say that watch this. I'm just giving you an example, okay? Someone can give an example and say my secure server at 247. Okay, look at this password. It contains all the elements of a strong password. Number one, it has an uppercase, it has a lowercase, it has a symbol, it has a number. And this is something that you can keep in mind. I'm not trying to tell you to create easy passwords. All that I'm saying is that any password you create should have the 4 elements, even if it is a password you want to memorize. Okay? Even if it's a password you want to memorize. Someone can say, all right. So you make sure that no matter how you create a password, it has the 4 elements, even if it is something you can remember or you want to keep in your mind. Something like this you can remember or you can keep in your mind. Something like this you can keep in your mind. All right. And again, I'm not trying to tell you to create simple passwords. I'm just telling you that every password should have the 4 elements, even if it is a password you want to keep in mind. So one of the basic security trainings we do is to teach how to create passwords. And this is how to create passwords. So I'm going to give you a very short exercise. I want you to create any password that has these 4 elements and you can still keep in mind. I'm not asking you to create a strange password with characters and strange characters. No, I'm telling you to create a password that you can memorize, but still has a 4 elements. So everyone should take a second. I'm giving you 30 seconds to do this. Create a password in the chat for me, okay? It shouldn't be too simple. Let it be creative. Let it be creative. Let it be creative. Let it be creative. It shouldn't be too simple. Let it be a little creative. It shouldn't be too simple. And I want to see all the 4 elements in it. It shouldn't be too simple. It shouldn't be too simple. In the morning, someone created a beautiful password like that. I'm trying to remember what the person created. I don't know if Sonia will remember, but someone created a beautiful password that I think I liked so much. And I don't know if I can remember that password, but everyone should create a password. This is an exercise that we are all going through now. And create a password that has the 4 elements and you can remember. The key here is that a password you can remember, okay? A password you can remember. Yes, keep it in mind. Okay. Okay, a password you can remember. All right. So in the morning, someone created a password like this. The person said, best self at 24/7. This is what the person created. And I told the person that, wow, I like your password so much. And the reason why I like the password was how creative the person was to include a slash here. You see, mixing symbols and numbers and still being creative in a way that you can keep in your mind is really nice. Okay, so thank you. Daniel says everyone. I don't know what that means. I don't see the 4 elements. So most of you have created it. And from today, as for this one, it's a warning. From today, every password you create needs to have these 4 elements. From today, this must be part of you. And this is not something that you should be told again. This one, there's a warning. As a tech person, never create a password that doesn't have these 4 elements. Whether you want to memorize or record, it needs to have, just check, make sure that your password has these 4 elements in it, period. Let's move on. So the mitigation technique here is to use long and complex passwords and mix your password with letters, numbers, and special characters. By doing this alone, it will be hard for a brute force attack to happen on a password like this. By doing this alone, it's going to be hard. By doing this alone, it's going to be really, really hard for a brute force, a software, to guess your password. Number 2, account lookout mechanism. Okay. Wow, the person got strong. What? Time to crack. Time to crack is 2 years. Can you imagine? Can you imagine this? This website is what? Passwordmonster.com. You see, cyber professionals have a lot of tools. Let's go and see it. So his website is passwordmonster.com. Password monster. Okay. Monster.com. And he typed okay, let's try password. So someone will type a password, hello, as password. But I type hello as a password, and they are telling me that, please, can you see this? Can you see the screen? They are telling me that the password is very weak. And how long will it take to crack? 0 seconds. Oh, why? All right. So this person here, John, thank you so much, John. John entered the password I gave you, my secure server at 247. And they are telling you that it is very strong. So once you do this, once you have these 4 elements, your password will move to the category of a strong password. All right. Look at the time to crack. 16 years. What? 16 years. You see, this one is different from John. You didn't bring the at. You see, John, you omitted this. By omitting this symbol, you got 2 years. So just by adding this at, it changes from 2 years to 16 years. You see that this one is 2 years, but with this at alone has changed it to 16 years. So security professionals, they have a lot of tools to test a lot of things. Okay, so yesterday we saw a live cyber threat map. So in cybersecurity, you should have a place you record tools that we use, both website and software tools that we use. Okay, so in the field, you'll be using them and you should be used to popular security tools. So thank you for showing us this website. I think it's really helpful to check the strength of our passwords. All right, let's continue. Another mitigation here. Okay, so number 2, mitigation, implement lockout mechanisms to limit the number of failed login attempts. You see, in the morning, someone said that, why can't we limit the failed attempts? So watch this. If you're a developer and you are building an application and you don't know the importance of limiting, okay, we'll talk about that. Limiting failed attempts. Someone said, why can't we let the person have just 4 attempts? Now, how many websites do that? How many websites will limit the attempts? You see, because of brute force attack, if you limit the person to 4 tries, it will stop them from running the brute force attack because they can't test all the thousands of combinations. But most applications don't have a limit. So the brute force will keep running and it will work. Also, you can use CAPTCHA to prevent automated tools from making multiple login attempts. All right. You see, the CAPTCHA has to be entered by a human. And because it is not a human, it is a bot, it does that. And if you start building websites and you start creating forms, that is where you will know how many bots can visit your site and can fill your form for you. You've not seen it before. I've seen it 1,000 times. A bot can fill your form for you and will send you 1,000 messages through your form on your website because there is nothing on the website that is limiting non-human filling. It's not only humans that will fill your forms. All right, let's move on to another one called staffing credentials. Sorry, credential staffing. Please put that in the chat. I'll quickly go through this and we'll take a short break so that we can just finish up. Credential staffing. So we are still talking about password attacks. We've looked at brute force attack. We are talking about credential staffing. Please put that in the chat for me. Credential staffing. Please put that in the chat for me. Credential staffing. I can see some people typing. Thank you, Emmanuel. Credential staffing. And this one is an interesting one, actually. Very, very interesting. Listen to this. Credential staffing is a form of a brute force attack. Watch this. In which attackers use previously stolen credentials to gain unauthorized access to user accounts on different websites or services. This is interesting. Typically, on the dark web contains lists of compromised passwords that cyber criminals use for their malicious activities. Are you hearing this? Hackers and exploit the data of victims who reuse multiple passwords or reuse passwords across multiple sites. Wow, I don't know if you heard this. This means that over the years, attackers have stored passwords that have been stolen as a list. Attackers have stored passwords that people usually use. You see, people think, most people think alike. So they can run data analysis on common passwords or passwords that have been leaked in the past or passwords that have been used in the past. So they've gathered a list of thousands of possible and top level or top possible passwords. And it is sold on the dark web. So attackers get this list and they use that for their brute force. And one of them will work. When it comes to password attacks, they are just trying different types to see which one will work. And they have tools to do this. Now, how does it work? Attackers obtain stolen credentials from data breaches or leaks. Sometimes the passwords are passwords that have been leaked through database hacks and leaks in the past, but they have gathered a list of possible passwords that has been stolen over the years. Then it also uses automated login attempts. They use these credentials to automate login attempts on various sites, hoping that the user might have reused their passwords. For example, listen to this. Some people have the same password across all their platforms. So the password they use for Gmail is the same password they use for Facebook, is the same password they use for LinkedIn, is the same password they use for their bank, is the same password they use for their investing, the same password they use for everything. And so once your password is discovered on one platform, they can test it across multiple platforms, and some of them may work. So what is the mitigation here? How do we prevent this? Encourage the use of unique passwords for different accounts. This means that in security training, you are trained that it is wrong to use the same password across multiple accounts. It is wrong to use the same password across multiple accounts. So it is wrong. So you need to create different passwords for different accounts. So the education you are getting right now is that it is not good practice to use the same password across multiple accounts. Somebody said one day that he has discovered his own, or he has created his own algorithm or formula for creating passwords. So let me show you what the person did. He said he has his own formula for creating passwords. So this is how he creates his password. Let me show you. I believe you can see my notepad. He said that if I'm creating password on, let's say, Gmail, this is what I'll do. I have two characters that I always use. Okay, let's say these two characters are GH. So I always use them. But then after I type my GH, then based on the email that I am creating, I will use the initials of the user ID. So if the user ID is supposed to be Darlington Fadams, he will type, let's say, DF here. Then the website that he is creating the email on, he will also pick initials from it. Let's say the first letter and the last letter. So here he will say IG. Then he will say at, or instead of at, he can say hash. Then he will count the number of letters of the website address. So Gmail has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then he will say #5. So this is the password he's going to use. Number one, this password, he doesn't have to memorize it. It looks like a strong password, or it has strange characters, but for him, he doesn't have to memorize it. He knows it. If he goes to Amazon, this is what he will do. He will start with his GH. Then, let's say the Amazon account he's creating, the initials are maybe DF. Let's use the same DF. But then this one has A and N. So he'll use NA at or hash. Let's use hash. Then he'll count the number of letters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. #6. Then this is how he creates his password. So on every platform, he will use this algorithm and he will always get different passwords. But it is not hard to remember this because he will look at the website and his ID and he will recreate the password every time. So that is his personal style of creating passwords. And anybody can create their own password creating algorithm. Or you can use a password manager to create and to store. So we'll talk about that as well, okay? Let me be fast over here. So to prevent credential stuffing, users are encouraged to use unique passwords for different platforms. We also have what is called two-factor authentication, or 2FA. 2FA. Please type 2FA in the chat for me. type 2FA in the chat for me. So there's something known as 2FA. There's something known as 2FA. So please put that in the chat for me. Thank you. And if you have put 2FA in the chat, I want you to also put MFA in the chat. MFA in the chat. MFA in the chat. Because this is something that really prevents a lot of security breaches. MFA, put this in the chat as well. Now, 2FA stands for two-factor authentication. Who can tell us what MFA stands for? Multi-factor authentication. So 2FA stands for two-factor authentication. MFA stands for multi-factor authentication. So I'm going to call someone to tell us the difference between 2FA and MFA. What is the difference between 2FA and MFA? Over here, they are saying that implement 2FA to add an additional layer of security. So by implementing 2FA or MFA, you can really prevent a lot of attacks. So this is really something that really prevents attacks. And so if you're an app developer, you need to implement this in your systems. And if you are a user, to implementing a 2FA will really save you. Most of the websites, WhatsApp attacks, the moment you implement 2FA, it will stop immediately. So I want to call someone, one person, tell us the difference between 2FA and MFA. Anybody who can do that for us, just raise your hand and tell us the difference between 2FA and MFA. Let me see some hands up. 2FA and MFA, who can tell us the difference between them? Anybody? What's the difference between two-factor authentication and multi-factor authentication? Anybody? I want to hear someone speak. There are some people I've never heard their voice before. You've been here for a long time. I've never heard you speak before. So let me get someone. Anybody? Let's get somebody, or I should mention names. Maybe I should call someone. But if you know it, just tell us. I just want to hear someone speak. It helps the class to get better understanding. And so, who can do this for us? What's the difference between 2FA and MFA? Anybody? 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 Okay. 2FA and MFA. Let me see by hand. Okay, so we have Caleb. So Caleb, please try unmuting and please talk to us.
Okay, good evening. I think I can try on the multi-factor. Multi-factor authentication, I think I've used it before. I used an app which rotates the numbers or pop up after some interval, just to allow you to enter a different number. Once you have entered maybe a password to maybe a website you are accessing, the next level of security is for you to enter the numbers appearing on the multi-factor app or software. Yeah, so the numbers, the reason why it is called multi-factor, they rotate, they come one number after maybe 1 minute, another number pops up. So it is not easy for someone to predict unless they have your software. Two-factor, I'm not very sure. Yes.
All right. So what you actually said, I think it is two-factor authentication that you talked about, and it is also a multi-factor authentication. So the difference here, I don't know if anybody has raised their hand. Okay, I have some hands up. So let me call Emmanuel. Have you spoken today, Emmanuel? Please try.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I spoke earlier on, but I want to
Oh,
add
okay.
an
Then let me
input.
call someone else. Let me call someone else if you're
All right.
spoken. So let's call Ashinafi. If you can unmute, please try unmuting and let's see if we can hear you. Ashinafi, please try unmuting. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, your line is breaking. We can't hear you. All right.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear now.
Okay. Thank you. Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Okay. Let me try the difference between MF and TFA. Two-factor authentication only requires one type of authentication in addition to username and password. For example, 2FA can be passcodes or a mobile push notifications. But when it comes to the multi-factor authentication, it requires one or more type of authentication in addition to username and passwords. For instance, multi-factor authentication can involve inputting a one-time passcode as well as approving login by verifying your location and most forms of multi-factor authentication involve contextual or biometric factors to prove our identity, such as geolocation or IP address, or it can be fingerprint scan. So it has a different method of authenticating of the user, but in 2FA, it's only adding an additional layer to the security. I think
All right.
this is the difference between those.
That's
concepts.
perfect. That's 100%. So thank you so much, all the way from Ethiopia. Thank you so much. All right. So the two-factor authentication, from what he said adding an additional layer of security to the login username and password. So this means that there are two authentications, your credentials and a second authentication. So maybe you have like what Caleb said, you have a companion app. Sometimes there's a companion app that comes with some applications. And so a code will be sent to the companion app that you have to produce in your system before you get access. Sometimes you get an OTP, a one-time PIN on your phone, a PIN on your phone for you to enter to get access. So these are called two-factor authentication. And the multi-factor could be two-factor, but it is two or more. So multi-factor authentication may require two authentications or three or four or more. So those ones are just multiple. Yeah, so sometimes there may be a secure system that you need to do a fingerprint and also produce a code. That is multi-factor authentication. It is more than two. I've seen systems in movies that you have to do a retina scan with your eye, you need to do a fingerprint, you need to enter a code and all that. So all of these things depending on the level of security and the amount of layers involved. All right, so this is a very, very important way of securing systems and also preventing attacks like credential stuffing. All right, another one is to monitor login activity, monitor for unusual activity and flag suspicious behavior. So sometimes, some as security professionals, you can begin your role as a security analyst. And most security analysts, they monitor data, they do data analysis and monitor data to discover unusual activity and they flag suspicious activity. So in cybersecurity training, you go through all of these things. to ensure that you have all the experience you need. All right, so quickly, I'll mention dictionary attack and another one that we take a quick break right now. When it comes to dictionary attack, it's also a password attack that uses a software, and it involves using an automated password getting software to try every word in a predefined list or a dictionary as potential passwords to see if any are successful. For example, if you use a simple software, they will try all the possible words in a dictionary or in a list that has been prepared down. And if your password is not secured and it's a simple word, then one of those words will work. So these cyber attacks exploit common habits of using single word passwords. Okay, more advanced dictionary attacks involve hackers developing a list of keywords specific to an individual. We'll look at this one as well, such as birth dates, names of family members, pets, or previous attacks. So this comes from pre-compiled lists, and to prevent this, you use complex passwords and don't use easily guessable passwords like what we mentioned, okay? Then password management. Utilize password managers to generate and store complex passwords. So over here, as part of your security training, it is good to use password management software. So the question is, which one would you like to use? All right. So with time, we may recommend some of them, but it is not wrong to use a password manager. A password manager is better than just typing your password into a text editor or just writing your password down on paper. And because you are not supposed to use one password, a password manager can help you use stronger passwords to prevent attacks. So here, as part of the information we are receiving from this training, it is not wrong to use a password manager software to manage and to create complex passwords. All right. Then regular updates. Some people have used the same password for 10 years. They are saying that after some years or after a while, please change your password to prevent potentially compromised passwords. So the last one I'll talk about here is called password guessing. This one does not really require the use of a software, but it is actually from people guessing password based on research they've done about you. So password guessing involves manually, this time not with a software, but manually trying common or simple passwords that might be easily guessed based on information about the user. This information can include details found in their social media profiles, such as their name, birth date, or other personal details, and often relies on specific knowledge about the individual. So with this type of attack, what they do is to do some research about you and guess. So like I told you, most people use certain things as their passwords. So all they need to look for is to get to know those details about you and guess them, and one of them may work. All right. So common knowledge, this is how it works. Attackers may use information gleaned from social media or public records to guess your passwords. And simple passwords, attackers attempt passwords that are commonly used based on your personal information. How do you avoid it? Avoid using passwords that can be easily obtained through personal information about you. Don't use passwords about you. Number two, educate users about creating strong and unique passwords and avoid using easily guessable passwords. Number three, use MFA, multi-factor authentication, to enhance security beyond just passwords. All right, so over here, we'll take a short break, and when we return, we will go through the remaining three in a very short time, and then we'll close. All right, so we have a lot to learn, and I believe already you've learned something in this class. So thank you very much. I'll see you after the break. We want to continue with our studies, and we are learning about common cyber attacks. And as tech professionals, we need to have fundamental security training, and that is what we are going through. We are going to focus our main training on malware, which is the most common cyber attack, and everyone here should have basic skills in malware to have the understanding you need and the preventive measures you need to secure your systems, because without that, you are going to be really vulnerable. And tonight we are spending time covering some of the common cyber attacks. We've looked at phishing, we've looked at password attacks, and now we want to move on to the next one, which is called denial of service attacks, or DOS. DOS. Please type DOS in the chat for me, or you can type denial of service attacks. Any of them that you like to type, please do that in the chat for me. And all these are forms of attacks that cyber attackers, cyber criminals use to target their targets or their victims. All right. So we have an attack called denial of service. And this particular attack, what happens is that they launch this attack to deny a service. Okay. So how the attack works is even found in the name of the attack, denial of service. So if there's a server that is providing a service, what they can do is to make sure that the server stops working. Make sure that the server stops working. So they do all they can to deny a service. Now, a DOS attack or denial of service attack aim to make a network service, a web server, or a system that is available, they make it unavailable to its intended users by overwhelming it with a flood of illegitimate requests or exploiting vulnerabilities. Wow. So they flood the service with a lot of requests so that it cannot work anymore. So they make sure that the network doesn't work because they send requests to overwhelm it. And to understand this particular service, you need to understand that there are certain systems that they function based on the number of requests that come to them. All right. For example, let me give you an example that I mentioned some weeks ago about election 2012 when I was working at Multimedia Group Limited. So a web server that is hosting a website, it works based on the number of traffic or the number of visitors who visit the website. If there are too many visitors than the server is capable of handling, the server cannot work. So there are some servers, they can handle thousands of visitors. But when they get into tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, you can't use that server to serve that website. It's not going to work. This is what happens. Okay, so you need to upgrade the server to a different type of hosting service. So when we start learning about web servers next week, we will understand all of these things. And so if you have a server that, let's say, can take thousands of visitors, and the attacker finds a way to send 100,000 requests to your server, that means your server cannot serve everyone. So during election 2012, what happened was that real people were trying to check the election results, and because there were too many, The company couldn't serve them. And they were using powerful servers, they still couldn't serve them. I myself moved 2 tiny images to a whole dedicated server. The whole dedicated server shut down because the traffic was too much. And so this was a real incident. Let's say in a university, during examination time, everyone is trying to log on to the portal to take a particular examination or a quiz or something. And because everyone is on the system, it doesn't work anymore. All right. There are some banking systems at certain hours of the day, you can't use the online banking because a lot of people are on it. This is what happens. And so the attackers, what they do is that they send fake requests to the server through certain methods. If they send a request by themselves using a software, it is called a denial of service attack. But one example of a denial of service attack is where they use other people to do it. So that one is called a distributed denial of service attack. And we'll look at that one very soon. The goal of this attack, DOS attack, is to disrupt the normal operation, deny access to legitimate users, or cause a system to crash. This is so strong that it can even make a system crash. One common example of a DOS attack is called a distributed denial of service attack or a DDoS attack. Please put DDoS attack, DDoS in the chat for me. DDoS. So a DDoS attack is very, very common in the cyber world, and you are going to hear this all the time, okay? And a DDoS attack is a type of a DOS attack, a DOS attack, okay? A DDoS attack is not the same, or the main attack is called a denial of service. But a distributed denial of service is an example or a type of a denial of service attack. And it's the most common type of a denial of service attack. There could be other denial of service attacks, but this particular one is very, very common. And this one happens when they use other people. Other people. And so what happens is that the attacker, through a worm, has infected thousands of people and sometimes millions of people over the internet. And these people are clueless that their computers are infected with this worm. And these worms, they can be designed in a way that they don't do anything yet to you. They are just on your system, waiting for the day that the attacker wants to launch his attack. So the day he wants to launch his attack, he will use your computer, and because you are online, he will use your computer to send a request to the server in the background. So maybe you are using another application, but in the background, because you are online, your computer is sending a GET request to a server. And at the same time, millions of computers that are infected are all sending the same request. So to the server will receive it as real people who are trying to visit the site. And there are too many, and so the server cannot function. It breaks down. A distributed denial of service, or DDoS attack, we pronounce it DDoS attack, is a type of DOS attack where multiple systems, often compromised machines, known as bots or zombies. Please type bots in the chat for me. Please type bots in the chat for me. Type bots. And after you type bots, I want you to type zombies. Zombies. Type zombies for me. Zombies. Type zombies for me. Zombies. If you type zombies, type zombie computer. Zombie computer. Whenever I'm teaching this to my students, I ask them, is your computer a zombie computer? A zombie computer is a computer that is infected with a worm, the malware called worm. And it is infected without your knowledge. So because your computer is not protected, that is why we should study malware. Your machine has a worm on it without your knowledge. And these worms, we'll see what worms do. One of the things they do is to use your machine without your background. So when you are working or when your machine is on, in the background, your machine is working for the attacker. And your machine can be doing things for the attacker. So you are carrying your machine around. You don't know that it is infected, but it is. So a zombie is like a walking dead. Your machine is dead, but you don't know, and you are working with it, and you are not doing anything about it. So compromised machines are called zombies. And these zombies or zombie computers are used to launch an attack simultaneously, the same time, without the knowledge of the victims. And the sheer volume of traffic from multiple sources makes it difficult to defend against and mitigate these attacks. So I've given you a picture here. This is how it looks like, a DDoS attack. So the attacker is in the background, and because of his worms, all these people are innocent laptops around the world, and they can be in millions. And if you see how worms work, worms can spread uncontrollably so fast across the internet or across a company's network. So the attacker will activate all his zombies and tell all the zombies to attack this machine. So these computers don't know what they are doing, but they are all sending a request. So to this server, it is a normal request it is receiving, not knowing if they are intentional and they are not real, they are fake. Because these people are not trying to get anything. And this is done so that the server will be overwhelmed. And because of the number of requests, the server can crash. Worst case scenario, the server can even catch fire. So this DDoS attack, it is used to take down websites. So if somebody wants to take down a website of a company, they can do this. This is called a denial of service. They'll stop you from working. All right. So over here, if you look at this particular picture, you can see that a DOS attack, usually involves less traffic, and it is usually carried out from a single machine using a script or a tool. So the attacker alone can send a denial of service attack to this server. It is less difficult to track the source. It is not that difficult to track the source. But where the attacker uses multiple computers, we call it a distributed denial of service attack or a DDoS attack. With that one, the traffic volume is much higher, carried out from a server that coordinates numerous botnets. So we'll talk about botnets later on. More difficult to identify the attack source. This is called a denial of service attack. The next type of attack we'll look at is called MITM, man in the middle attack. Please put that in the chat for me. I'll quickly talk about it. We are going to be done in 10 minutes or less. Man in the middle attack. Please put that in the chat for me. Man in the middle attack, MITM. So when it comes to man in the middle attack, it is very interesting. When two people are communicating or someone is trying to communicate with a server, what a person doesn't know is that there is an attacker who has intercepted the whole communication. And instead of talking to the server, what happens is that the person in the middle receives your question and sends his own question to the server. Then the server will send the answer to him. Then he will send his own answer to you. And so it's like trying to talk to somebody through a middleman. This middleman, what he does is that he has his own agenda. What you say, he will not deliver the exact message. He will go and say something else. and get information, and he'll come and tell you something else. That is how the man-in-the-middle attack works. So a man-in-the-middle attack occurs when an attacker secretly intercepts and possibly alters the communication between two parties who believe they are directly communicating with each other. The attacker positions themselves between the two parties, gaining unauthorized access to sensitive information, such as login credentials, financial data, or private communications. All right. Another one that we may talk about if we get time is called SQL injection or SQL injection. This is another serious attack that if you're a developer and you build any website or application and you don't secure it from this, anyone who knows SQL, any attacker who knows SQL, and mind you, all these attackers, they've studied all of these query languages. So in your tech journey, one of the common languages that everybody needs to learn in database management is called SQL, SQL. SQL stands for Structured Query Language, and everybody needs to know this language. It's like it is a mandatory language for every tech professional, okay? So those of you in data analytics, data science, this is one of your primary tools, but everyone else needs it. It is very, very important that everyone knows SQL over here. All right, so this SQL injection or SQL injection is a type of cyber attack that allows an attacker to manipulate and execute malicious SQL code within a web application database query. Wow. By exploiting vulnerabilities in the application's input fields, attackers can gain unauthorized access to sensitive data. They can modify or delete records and even execute administrative privileges on the database. Wow. This is really, really dangerous. So if you're a web developer and you don't have any security skills, what can happen is that when you design a login form or any form at all on your website, when we hit submit, the form is going to send the data to a database. So let's say a login form, for example, instead of the username and password going to the database, the attacker will add SQL code to the username. So once it gets to the database, the SQL code that is added will be seen as a correct code because a character will be added that will make it look like a command, a query that you are given. So the database will respond to that query, and that query could carry instruction to delete the whole database, to delete data, to execute different operations, or even to get access to sensitive data. It is really common and really dangerous. SQL injection. Other threats include insider threats, social engineering, drive-by downloads. I'm going to spend 2 minutes on each of them and then we'll close. Insider threats refer to security risks that originate from within an organization, typically involving employees, contractors, or business partners who have legitimate access to the organization's systems, networks, or data. So this is a very, very dangerous cyber threat where people who work within the organization, especially those who have access to data, are working within the organization with different agendas. Unlike external threats, insider threats come from individuals who are already trusted and have authorized access, making them particularly challenging to detect, mitigate, and they are very dangerous. I mean, we all know how insiders can cause harm. They say if someone can really, really get you, the person must be an inside person. Because you have a lot of security protocols, you've hired a lot of security personnel to protect your systems. But those who are inside your system organization, they already have the access. Some of the ways to mitigate this, number one, either to detect and eliminate such employees, ensure that background checks are done well before they are hired. Okay, ensure that background checks are done well before you hire people. Number 3, use non-disclosure agreements and certain agreements before sensitive information is revealed to certain employees. Number 4, you can use access levels policies to grant access to employees based on their level of or their role position in the organization. So not everyone has full access. So like we watch in movies in the CIA, some people may have level 3 clearance, some people may have level 2 clearance, some people may have level 4 clearance, and some people may have level 6 clearance, and those people have access to a whole lot more. So you use access controls and other security policies to ensure that insider threats are managed. Then we also have social engineering. And one of the ways that insider threats can also be dangerous is that sometimes the employees may not even have malicious intentions, but they can also be manipulated. They can also be what? Manipulated by attackers. Because they have access, they can be manipulated and they can do things and grant access without knowing that they are being manipulated. So another mitigation factor is education. So educating those who have access to data. All right, so that is insider threat. Social engineering here is a psychological manipulation technique used by criminals, cyber criminals, to deceive individuals into divulging confidential information or performing actions that compromise security. Unlike technical attacks that exploit software vulnerabilities, social engineering targets the human element, exploiting trust, exploiting fear, curiosity, or the ignorance of people to achieve the attacker's goal. So this one comes from psychological manipulation. Through social skills, people can manipulate others into giving out information. The last one I'll talk about is called drive-by downloads. Please type that in the chat for me quickly. This is the last thing we are typing, drive-by downloads. So drive-by downloads are a type of cyber attack in which malicious software is automatically downloaded to a user's device without their knowledge or consent. This typically occurs when a user visits a compromised or malicious website. The downloaded malware can exploit vulnerabilities in the user's browser, operating system, or installed software to gain unauthorized access. Let me explain. The attackers will either set up a compromised website to be given free things. But the website is designed not focus on giving you free things, but to put malware on your computer. Number 2, attackers may attack a real website, a legitimate website, and infect the website with malware. So what happens with drive-by downloads is this. Anybody who visits the website is automatically infected. You don't have to download anything. This is very dangerous. You don't have to download anything. You don't have to install anything. You don't have to click anything. The moment you visit the website, you are infected. That is how they've done it. It's called drive-by downloads. Just like people drive by to buy KFC and McDonald's, and they drive through to buy certain lunch and things. This particular attack, you just drive by and you get attacked. All right. So these are the common cyber threats that we have looked at. Next week, we will get into the details of malware. All right. So be expecting a project work that will be shared with you. We will send it shortly. So be expecting it and work on it. Thank you so much. I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy that you are so consistent and you are really disciplined to becoming better Okay, it is said that you can't keep doing the same old things and expect different results. If you want to get different results, you need to do different things. And learning is something that is really going to transform your career, really going to make a whole difference and going to open so much opportunities to you. I am so proud of you. I am so happy that you are always learning, and thank you so much for being part of this class. And I just want to know if you've learned anything in this class. In this cybersecurity class tonight, have you gotten any new information? Have you learned anything new? Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the chat if you have learned something new. Thank you, Oluwafemi. Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you so much. And this is where we draw the curtain. Thank you all. I'll see you guys on Monday. Thank you and bye-bye.